What up, guys? Today I'm gonna do a tutorial on tracking. That's always fun to do. So I know there's a tutorial on how to do like the stabilized motion, which is, similar to the actual track motion. You just don't apply it on the layer. It gets applied to either a null or the layer that you want to be tracked, which is very confusing to say. So I will quickly go over how to just track motion in general. So say that I want this green layer. Let's put it here. So that I just want like this lovely green layer to be tracked with the motion of this image. So yeah, I want this to be tracked with this motion, and luckily this motion isn't like big, too big. It's nice, just like a simple pan up. So that's why I'm using it, because it's easy. So let's say I just want this green thing to follow that movement. You probably wouldn't do this, but, for example's sake. So I'm going to highlight the actual layer that has the movement. I'm going to open up so it says layer, and then I can add my track motion. So since it's just moving up, I'm just going to have position locked in, but if there's a rotation or a scale, you want to click on these. I suggest don't worry if there's a scale, because the scale, when I try it, it's not really that nice. So here I have my little tracking point, and the goal is to find a nice point that has a lot of contrast and sticks out, and that's relatively tiny, or just like a nice shape that will help this guy track that's not, very big. Because the bigger you make this thingy, the slower your computer can process the information, and it's just not a nice thing to use your computer. So I usually go through just to see the movement, see which thing stays constant that doesn't get disrupted, like nothing goes in front of it, doesn't change color or whatnot. So I'm liking these little guys. I think these guys will be helpful. So I'm just gonna go into one of them, pray that it stays there. So I'm gonna make my area bigger so that it's basically saying like just look for the thingy in this area, and that'll help it calculate the information. So when I've set it all up, I'm just gonna hit play and bring on the diseases with the magic is. So it stayed nice and all that good stuff. Now I can apply it, but before I apply it, I'm actually gonna add a null object. And you technically don't have to do this, but I'll say why you should. So let's say, yeah, I actually want it to be, I want my green thing to be like that big. And if you apply all of this lovely animation to the green thing just by itself, if for some reason you're like, oh no, I actually want the green thing to be like over here. Well, because you've added all the tracking data to this layer, you can't really move it that easily because it's just going to mess up all the tracking data. So what I do is I want to make sure that the tracking data is on a different layer than the actual adjustment, stuff. So you can either put the tracking data on the actual layer that's being tracked and then parent this thing to the null so that the null can just be the adjustment for it. But usually I like to work the other way. So I put all the tracking data on the null. So let's do that first before I complicate people. I'm going to edit the target. I'm going to put it on the null. And I'm going to apply, and I'm just going to say X and Y, sure. Now, the null is following it, but not the green one. So in order for the green thing to actually follow the movement, I have to parent it to this. So now it can follow. And now, because the null has all the tracking data, I can put the green thing wherever I want without disrupting any of the motion or the tracking data. And it lives together in harmony. It's a beautiful thing. Okay. So that's if you just want to put, track something with it. That's all good and dandy. So if you have like a screen or something, like say this is blank and there's not really like a nice thing to track, there's still a way to track this frame without finding a point. And it's called, you go to track motion. I'm actually just going to get rid of the first tracker. So tracker 2, I'm actually going to change transform to perspective corner. This gives me lovely four squares. So this only works if you have like, if it's a picture frame or like a TV screen or whatever. So anything that has like 4 corners. And the thing to make sure is that the 4 corners always stay in frame. So nothing obstructs the corners, doesn't go off screen, it just stays in frame and it's nice and easy. This one, since it's nice and easy, I can easily track the corners. So let's put them in place. Okay, so all the lovely corners are in place. And the thing about the perspective corner pin is the key word is perspective. So what it's going to do is it's actually going to use an effect called corner pin. And what corner pin does is that if you put it on, it gives you 4 corners. And if you move them, you can actually line it up. And depending where you put it, you can change the perspective relation of the layer. And I know it doesn't look proper because it's, you know, a green, just so you can't really see what's happening. So let's actually try it with an image instead. You can actually see what's happening. So if I line it up, you can kind of see that it's getting all wonky now. You can kind of see the perspective changes depending on where the corners are. So instead of having to like rotate an image, you just line up the corners and it automatically does all that rotation and perspective changing by itself. So now it actually looks like it's being slanted and all that good stuff. So that's what corner pin does. So basically going to track it with the corner pin, and it's going to animate the corner pin so it stays with the image. So I'm going to track it now. All nice and tracked, didn't go out. Beautiful thing. Let me get my green thing back. I'm just going to put my green thing there. And the thing is, before I apply it, I'm actually going to pre-compose the layer. Because, as you can see, it's going to get fucked up. So because I still want to have control over adjusting what's being shown on the picture, I want all the tracking data separate from the actual composed image. So I'll show you. So go to your tracking data after you've pre-composed it. And I'm going to edit the target. It's automatically going to go to the composition because you can't put it on the layer. And then you hit apply. And automatically you can see it's just readjusted itself. It's all in perspective. And it follows with the movement. And you just have to like rotoscope the, fingers and all that good stuff. But I don't want the green screen anymore. So that's just a placeholder. If I go into the composition, I can then switch it out for another one. But you can kind of see the perspective is a little off. So in order to fix that, I'm going to lock this composition. You don't actually have to do this. This is just a step that makes it easier to see what you're doing when you adjust it. So I'm going to lock this composition. Make sure I'm on this composition. You can only do this if you have a pre-composited layer in your comp. So that's locked. I'm going to open this, and you can see it's made another composition layer up here. And you can only do this if this one is locked. So now I have two compositions, and I'm going to put this down to the side. So now I can see both of them side by side. So when I'm doing my adjustments for this layer, I can see it render in real time. That's looking more normal, I guess. It looks really fucked up here, but it looks normal here. When I'm done with that, I can close that. Make sure I remember to unlock that. And go back to this composition. And you have it all good and dandy. And again, if you wanted to like adjust this comp layer, you can make a null and basically just do the opposite. Have the tracking data on the layer, and then you can move and even scale with this layer. So you just want to adjust a little bit more, you can just clear up all the edges. And that's how you can track.